All right, this might be one of the most out there videos I've ever made, or pieces of content ever by far. And out there as well as you got to hear me out. Like, you're going to have to hear me out through my thought process, through my experience, through my observations, in order for any of this to potentially make sense. And I don't say that arrogantly, I say that because I know my own self and my past self and how all of what I'm about to say might sound absurd, but I want you to hear me out if you are going to watch this video. So the title, as I've titled it, is The Role of Pessimism on Eye Health. And that is meant literally. There's no caveats with that. That's literally what I mean. And I'll kind of walk you through first my eye health experience, journey, and my also pessimism journey, optimism, all that sort of stuff, more the emotional side. So I think the first time I noticed that I had not the best eyes in the world, I was probably in my early teens, if I had to guess, like 13 to 15. And I got glasses from Costco. I couldn't tell you how old I was, roughly around that age as well. And I wasn't very good about wearing them. And I honestly couldn't even tell you what the prescription was, but it helped a lot. It went from being kind of iffy on everything that I was seeing, especially in like class, to like, wow, I feel like Superman. I can read everything. And I wore them on and off. I didn't really like them. They were kind of the aviator style. Actually, one of my friends thought I wore them for fun. Like, he didn't know that they were prescription, which is kind of funny because they kind of look different than typical glasses. They were the aviator style. And I wore them on and off even through college, even after my prescription would have probably changed. I still would wear them occasionally. I would always have them in my backpack in case there was a class where I couldn't read the board. And eventually I lost them probably in 2023-ish. And I haven't worn glasses since. Now, that's kind of my glasses journey. In terms of my actual eye health journey, I really only became, if you could say, aware of the possibility of like things outside of mainstream medicine or mainstream ideas potentially being true. Probably only became aware of that in like 2021, give or take, during COVID, with the whole, the thing. I didn't get the thing. But I didn't know why I didn't get the thing. I was skeptical, but I had no grounding in my skepticism. Now I'm very glad I didn't get it, and I just now know personally that it's unnecessary. It's whether you want to go the full conspiracy theory route or you just believe it's not necessary for you. I just don't believe it's necessary in basically any case. That's a whole different conversation. But started to become a little bit aware of like, okay, just because the mainstream science, ideology, etc., says bad eyes is what it is. You need to wear glasses, or you need to get surgery, or you need to get contacts. And I started thinking like, okay, that just doesn't seem right. The body can heal bones, it can heal torn ligaments and muscles. Like, why would the body just decide, oh, vision is bad, it can no longer improve? Okay. So over those years, as my diet improved, I have a different video about this, going from a vegan diet to a more nutrient-dense omnivorous diet. That's as simple as I'll call it now. Vision improved significantly, but the biggest factor wasn't actually diet and was time spent outdoors, time spent sunny outdoors or in sunny areas. And the most impactful element was time spent outdoors in the sun, viewing at a far distance, whether it's at the horizon or playing catch, playing a game, anything that elevates your vision probably beyond the first 50 feet in front of you. And as I did that more and more and more, especially in my time in Montenegro, I stayed at a farm village there through the network Uncommon Success, now known as the New Athlete Project. Stayed there for about 3-4 months in one go, collectively probably like 5 or so, maybe 6 months. And that time was so profound for my vision improving. Like, again, none of this is backed by tests. And this is why I said you have to hear me out, right? If you need tests or studies for me to lay out, this isn't the video for you. But my vision improved dramatically there. And I think there was many factors. The biggest one being how much I was staring off into the horizon. We were in a pretty rural area, a lot of working with my hands, a lot less time spent in front of the computer, and just a lot less radiation, EMF radiation, cleaner food, just the list went on and on, cleaner air, that I think all led to the vision drastically improving. Probably sleeping much deeper as well, allowing the body to rest and truly repair. So that's kind of, in general, my eye journey. Also staring more, again, weird sounding stuff, but like looking at the sunrise, looking at the sunset. I'm not perfect about doing it, but the more I do it, the more it feels good. And the myth is completely busted to me that staring at the sun causes any form of blindness. And my dad is someone who has experienced this as well. My dad is 66. Yeah, wow, 66. And he wore glasses from a very young age, younger than 8, I'm sure, when he got his glasses for the first time. And now he hasn't worn glasses in, I want to say, 2 or 3 years. That's primarily come from him, from dietary changes, as well as sun exposure, sunlight into the eyes changes. Okay, so that's the whole sunlight thing. Now I'm going to move it more into the psychology, emotional, pessimism, optimism side of things, because this is the more recent theory. And it's a big hear me out theory, but it also, I think, if you really follow the logic, I think it makes a lot of sense. And something else I want to preface with all of this is, I think an important part of what I'm talking about is whether you want to call it the placebo effect or miracles or the power of belief, manifestation. Like there's many different words for it. Prayer, placebo kind of leans more towards the atheistic worldview, and miracles and asking for something in prayer leans a little bit more towards the theistic view or the Christian worldview. But I think an important thing to note here, and I think this is in the book Mere Christianity, I could be wrong, that nobody is denying that miracles exist. Even atheists accept the one biggest miracle, which is the Big Bang, which is the beginning of everything. It's the spark that lit the whole world on fire and gave the world life and light and love and all of these things. That's like the one miracle that you must at least believe in order for the atheistic worldview to exist. And if that can be true, then almost anything else is possible. So, back to the main point. So, pessimism, optimism. So what do I mean by this, and how does this play directly into eye health? I'm not necessarily making the argument that being pessimistic through some metaphysical way directly attacks the eyeballs, and that's why, in some cases, vision is lower. I'm talking about a much more physical approach. So I grew up much more leaning towards the introverted side. As of right now, I've taken a bunch of those. I think it's called the Myers-Briggs test. I've taken that maybe 5-6 times over the past 5 or so years, just randomly. And every single time I'm almost smack dab in the middle between introverted and extroverted. Like the most variation I've had is like 55-45%. But looking at my younger self, I'm talking 10 years old and younger, and even into my teens, I was way more introverted. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I would never raise my hand. I would never be the one to initiate anything social, whether a game or going somewhere, of nothing. I would never do any of that. I barely even had friends, mostly because I just didn't pursue the creation of friend groups for a long time, not the whole time. And with all of that, an observation that I've made within myself, especially comparing myself towards people that are like hyper optimistic. Now, I'm not even going to go into like the pros and cons, if you will, of optimism versus whether you want to call it pessimism or realism, because there is such thing as being overly optimistic, I think, and can lead to slip-ups. But again, that's a different conversation. But an attribute that I have found through observation of myself and others regarding connection between how our eyes work in the physical world and our introvertedness versus extrovertedness, or pessimism versus optimism, is where we place our gaze at rest. So this is where I'll get a little bit specific. I know within myself when I've been either sad for a short period of time, or if you want to call it like a season of depression, or even a season of pessimism. Maybe I lost my job, maybe I lost a client, maybe I'm going through some sort of heartbreak. I notice my eyes continually error or lean towards looking lower and lower and lower. If I'm really down, I'm only looking, if I'm walking, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet in front of me. My baseline, if I look at, try to remember as best I can as my whole life, my baseline is where I'm looking when I'm walking. I'm probably looking about 20 or so feet in front of me, maybe 25 or 30. That's like my baseline. And it's still something I think about these days when I walk. And I notice the difference between me looking very low versus me looking at the horizon versus me maybe even looking above the horizon, looking at the sky, the buildings, the beauty, the plants, the trees, the birds, all these things, the sun, right? All of that for me requires some level of optimism in order to do as a baseline, right? That's the big thing. Like, what do you do at baseline? It's not, are you able to look up from time to time? What's your baseline? What's your norm? Where have you been gazing for the last 20, 15, 30, 50 years of your life? Where's your natural gaze been? And for me, for most of my life, most of my childhood, it's been at that mid to low range. And I know some other people, if I go outside and go on a walk, if people look really, really down, where are they looking? They're literally looking down. And if people are looking very up, very excited, very optimistic, very full of life, where are they looking? At a minimum, they're at the horizon. Potentially, they're a few degrees above the horizon. So this brings me all back to vision. This is the connection I see between your optimism and pessimism and your eye health, your vision health, your strength of your vision. Now, again, hear me out. I think, personally, it's well understood that where you place your eyes, where you place your vision most often is where your body is going to adapt to the most. If you're constantly viewing a computer screen, your eyes will become very good at viewing that computer screen. I view my computer screen for hours every single day. My hands, keyboard, eyes, brain are so connected. I can do almost anything on my computer like faster than 99% of the population. And that's not to brag. Like, I don't love that that's something that I'm capable of doing versus somebody who spends a lot of their time in a field working, farming. They can't do what I can do on the computer very well, but they sure as heck know how to round up animals, how to view way off in the distance if an animal is missing, count animals from a distance, whatever it might be. And I don't think it's a far-fetched idea to believe that whatever you spend most time doing, whether it's computer, or spending time outside, spending time farming, or spending time in nature, you're going to become naturally better at that thing. And this is where the vision comes into play. I'm very good at viewing my computer screen. I try to spend as much time outside as possible. There's a nearby park where I lay in almost every single day with some really solid UV. UV tends to be between 4 and 6 these days. And it's really nice. I open up my eyes. Sometimes I look at the sun. It feels good. I get a nice tan. I get a nice sweat. And the more I do that, the better I feel. And the more I do that, the better my vision gets. So I think all these interventions of how to improve your vision could be exercises looking very short and then looking very far, or looking at the sun, looking at the sunrise, the sunset, cupping your eyes. I think these are all great, but we cannot ignore where our baseline is. What are we doing 99.9% of the time? And that's our gaze, our walk, even when you're eating food. Are you staring at your phone a foot and a half ahead of you? Or are you at the very least staring at the other side of the room or the living room or the kitchen where it's 10 feet, 15 feet away from you? That's where you have to think about where is your baseline at. And I think one of my friends and clients, Justin Mucci, he kind of has been talking about this as well, and I'll probably send him this video, and I hope that he makes a reel about it because it's very powerful. Training the body, for athleticism, for sports, what he helps athletes do, it's not just what you do in your 45-minute or 90-minute session 3, 4, 5 times a week, or whatever the training regimen is. That's not training. Training happens while you're sleeping, while you're eating, while you're sitting, walking, dancing, and training. Everything that you do in your life is training. If you only work really hard for that 1 to 1.5 hours per day, 6 times a week, and the rest of the time you're slouched in the couch, you're walking with duck feet, you're consuming the worst food, you're sleeping horribly, you're playing video games till 3 in the morning, like, That's all also training, and it's counterproductive to the actual training that you are doing. So same thing with the gaze. Like you can do these eye exercises all the time, and I've tried them, and they feel kind of nice. You start building some kind of strain on your eyes of looking very close and looking very far, and it's great. I'm sure it's great. But the question comes back to, what is your baseline? What are you doing 99% of the time with your vision? A big one for me that I have a bad habit of is looking at my phone screen when I'm in bed. That's just something I shouldn't do ever. If I need to do something on my phone, do it before bed, then go into bed without the phone, or go into bed with the alarm already set. But every time I do that, I'm training my eyes to stay in a poor state of vision, right? So that's my case. That's my case for the link between pessimism and, I should really say, poor eye health, and then the link between optimism and positive eye health. And just making one more quick observation, like the next time you go out, whether it's outside, at a park, in class, in work, whatever it is, traveling I think is a great one. If you're in a big city with a lot of people, try to spot the people in your vicinity who seem the most optimistic and observe where their resting gaze is. And then do the opposite of that. Find the people in the area that look the least optimistic, that look the most pessimistic, and observe where their baseline eye vision is at. It's not that far-fetched of an idea. I know I said this is a hear me out video, and it still is a hear me out video, but give it a try. Like, even if you don't have bad vision, how do you feel when you fix your gaze in a way that more so mimics the optimistic people? Now, whether or not it's a cause or an effect, that's a different question. Are people optimistic because they look up, or are people looking up because they are optimistic, or is it both? Different question. So those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below what you think, if any of this resonates, if it's complete nonsense. But yeah, I just wanted to share this idea because I feel like there's no way I'm the only person that's thought of this. So yeah, thank you for watching.